Good evening, everybody. God, it's sunny out here for once. One of the very few times I get to enjoy the sun. Well, I say enjoy the sun. I still feel like if I step 1 foot out here and touch this lovely stuff, it burns. Fuck me. No, just kidding. Anyway, I feel like I'm going to end up burning myself alive if I step out there. But of course, you didn't come here to find out I'm allergic to grass. No, you're here because you wanted me to talk a bit more about some politics. So why not waste time? Or rather, let's not waste any time. So, if anybody's been paying attention, apparently there's a Labour MP who is calling for a whole load of visas, thousands of them, for the Palestinians in Gaza. Why the hell we have this need to provide Palestinians who, in most cases, have no legal or human right to be here a visa, I have no idea. But one thing is certain: we don't need or want any more Palestinians. The Palestinians don't even have much love for our country, let alone the Jews, who are basically what Dick Dastardly and Muttley are to Penelope Pitstop. And I can't believe I'm making that reference. Anyway, they are basically hateful towards us and are sworn enemies of the Jews. Or sorry, they are the sworn enemies of Jews. I, for one, will never recognise the Palestine state because it never existed. When blacks were being ill-treated, did they call for a black state? No, they didn't. Though, to be fair, the whole black situation was a genuine issue of racism, and you could at least justify some kind of compensation, if you will, towards black people. Whereas the Palestinians are actively calling for the genocide of Jews. They're basically endorsing war crimes, and yet they're the ones who are trying to get Israel done on war crimes, ironically. The amount of projection that these Palestinians have is astounding. And there are some people in the Palestinian movements that are foaming at the mouth so much that I'm surprised they're not in hospital being diagnosed with rabies. But these same fanatics are the people who are basically saying that they don't care about all the babies that have been killed by Hamas. And let me be quite clear. I am completely against the killing of innocents, no matter what side they're on. Whether it's Palestine women and children who literally do not seek or want to fight, or whether it's the other side of the Israelis losing civilians left and right who cannot fight. Just don't make me a poet, because that's not going to happen. Anyway, this is the thing. I have this care for civilians on both sides, not just one or the other. But the Palestinians don't care about babies being beheaded. That should already tell you the kind of people we're dealing with. But this Labour MP, who wants thousands of visas made for all these Palestinians, clearly doesn't have a clue who he's dealing with. He's just doing this specifically for political point scoring. The trouble is, Palestine doesn't care about political point scoring when their basic goal is a caliphate. Because whether it's Islam in general, or whether it's Palestine's wanting a Palestine state, they are both two cheeks of the same arse. And it's quite a shit-covered one as well. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, because say it with me, folks, it doesn't suit the narrative. Palestine isn't looking out for any other people other than themselves. Palestine is looking out for Palestine. And the drones slash shills slash sheeple who are supporting Hamas and supporting Palestine are basically supporting a group of people who are going to end up killing them anyway. Hell, there was a terrorist leader, I'm trying to remember the terrorist group, who, you remember the Queers for Palestine movement, how he's basically saying that it's one and the same. We don't care whether you're married or not. We don't care if you support us or not, effectively, because homosexuality in Islam is treated the same way. It doesn't care. If you're committing adultery with another man, you're going to be stoned to death, or you're going to be thrown off a building. Obviously, this is Islam's teachings, not mine. But it shows you how misguided a lot of people really are. And these Palestinians are who this twat of an MP, bluntly speaking, these are the people that he wants to give visas to come over to our country, even though there are plenty of other safe countries for them to go to, and basically come and sponge off our system, and come and basically violate our country, and turn our country into the third world shithole that they've come from. And I know people will be like, but what about the women and children? Come on now, let's be real. If it was women and children, let me be absolutely clear, I'd be all for it. But the trouble is, it's not going to be the women and children we get, is it? Let's be real, it's going to be the middle-aged or fighting-age men who are basically fleeing their governments because they've committed crimes against it. Or they are going over there to secure benefits, over here to secure benefits, and then bring their family along to get family benefits as well, even though they're in Palestine still. That's the thing. We aren't thick. We aren't stupid anymore. We know the game these people are trying to play. In fact, most people with that rare resource these days called common sense, which, as said, should be called rare sense, know that these kinds of people, this is the game they're playing. But here we have shills like this Labour MP who basically want to give these guys a free ticket to Benefits Britain. It almost reminds me of that spunk trumpet, what's his face, I can't remember, Andrew Chowdhury. You know, the guy who said that he's calling for jihadists to claim, and I quote, jihadi seekers allowance. Yeah, that kind of guy. Why the fuck should we be inviting Palestine over here? As I said, there's plenty of other countries that they could go to. Why isn't it they take refuge in Egypt, or Iran, who are clearly more tolerant of their barbaric 5th century death cult beliefs, who, ironically, as I'm saying this, turns out the president of Iran has died, which he frankly won't be missed. But it all comes down to this man is trying to get these guys over here to the UK. And as said, it's nothing more than political point scoring. But that's something the mainstream media doesn't want to tell you, because obviously it would undermine the narrative that they're drawing with this, because they support Palestine, even though these murderous motherfuckers basically want to commit genocide. They want to commit actual war crimes. Now, it could be that Israel's committed war crimes, for all I know, but I would like to think they're not doing it intentionally. And bear in mind as well, I made this point in the past, or maybe I haven't, depending upon whether or not I uploaded the video in the first place. But the thing with Islam is they know full well that they can use women and children as basically a heartstring pull move. They pull on your heartstrings by thinking, oh, it's women and children. And then all of a sudden, we've seen it in films like American Sniper, where basically there was this one woman who handed their child a hand grenade, told him to go and throw it at this US patrol that was coming down. And obviously, the poor child got shot. But this is what they do. They pull on your heartstrings and use psychological warfare. Psychological warfare is very effective. Think about it. Would you want to be guilty of killing an innocent child? Would you want to be guilty of killing an innocent woman who might be pregnant as well, for all I know? Now, obviously in the film it's not the case, but it's the point of Islam likes to use this as a weapon of terror, of psychological warfare. So it would stand to reason why I'm a little hesitant to be sympathetic towards Palestine, even regarding women and children. Because at the end of the day, it could be they're doing this for the simple fact that they want us to be weak. they want us to be soft. But of course, it's like, they know the best way to a man's heart is through his fourth and fifth rib, basically. But back to the point regarding Palestine. I don't think we should be allowing one of these people here. In fact, Egypt and Iran actually have come out and said in the past that the reason they're not taking people from Palestine is basically because they don't want the risk of terrorism and crime. Bang! And we have the exact reason why we shouldn't allow these fuckers in our country either. I know people are going to think I'm being heartless. I know people are going to think I'm being cruel or being racist, perish the thought. But as I said, I've made quite clear, if it really was just women and children, I think we could take a few. I'm not saying we could take thousands, but I'm saying we could take a few of them. But the trouble is, as I've said before, and will say again, it's not just women and children, is it? Or more accurately, it's not going to be women and children, is it? It's going to be the fighting age men. The men who basically want to come over here, as said, and turn our country into a third world shithole like the country they came from. Or it's going to be a matter of they want to come over here to commit their crimes and be a general nuisance. Now, I'm sure there will be a few people who you could say are special exceptions and actually do want to come over to this country and contribute to our country and our society. And to that, I respect them. But the trouble is, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen these people yet. I'd love to. I'd love for somebody to fucking come down this street right now and say, they're from Palestine and they want to come over here and support our country. And they want to actually pay in taxes, do a job that will help contribute to our country, not sponge off our system and what have you. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, and chances are, and it's a bold claim, I suspect I never will. But I want to be wrong. I have never wanted to be so wrong in my life, other than with the police, how I think they're going to act on the 1st of June. But I would advise this Labour MP that he thinks twice before considering providing visas to these people in Palestine. I would think very carefully, considering, one, we're already overcrowded as it is. Two, we have over 40,000 terrorist suspects on our list, and it turns out that 90% of them are Islamic. And three, we don't know what these people are going to provide, since more often than not, we can't even process them properly. And that's simply because they throw their passports into the channel when they come over here. Do you think they should be allowed over here when they do that? I believe in a policy of no passport, no entry. So, if these people are chucking their passports into the river and trying to come over here and say, I have no passport, I would tell them, fuck off back then. Maybe harsh, for all I know, but at the end of the day, we have to put the security of our own people first. No exceptions. I wouldn't expect any other country to take me over keeping their country secure. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be the same. Because for all I know, Mr. Abdul, who's come over the friggin' channel, may look very nice on paper, but then later down the line, it turns out he had convictions for this, that, and the other. Just as a scenario. And then, all of a sudden, he goes on to commit these crimes, and then who's to blame? Is it our MI5 for not seeing this sooner? Or is it the people who've brought them over here in the first place? And if he's been given one of those visas, who do you think's going to be to blame, I think I know exactly who'd be to blame for that one. The Labour MP. Of course, the border force would also have to take some responsibility. And Security would also have to take some responsibility, because obviously they should be processing these people. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure our country is safe. And right now, our country is far from safe. As I said, 40,000 plus people on the terror suspect list. And as I said, 90% of them Islamic. What is Gaza? It's Islamic. What's Iran? It's Islamic. What is Afghanistan? It's Islamic. What is Egypt? It's mostly Islamic. That's the thing. I am not saying these things because I hate Islam. I'm saying these things because Islam has a track record of being intolerant towards us, especially intolerant to gays, and especially intolerant to people who basically turn away from Islam after people realise what kind of death cult it is. So forgive me if I'm not jumping for joy like a fucking gym money at the prospect of this muppet of an MP wanting to give thousands of visas to come to our country to people who we don't even know, and chances are we probably won't be able to vet properly. I am all for people coming over here legally if we have the capacity, but we don't. We don't have the capacity. We won't be able to process them because their chances are throw their passports into the sea, and they will also be people who are effectively, at best, wild cards, and at worst, potential terrorists we're letting in. People might not like that, but it's the cold bit of truth. And the cold bit of truth doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about my feelings either. Like, if I punch this pole here, ow. The point is, that pole's not going to care about my feelings of, ow, the pole hurt me. Obviously, it didn't really hurt me, but I'm just putting it into perspective. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, Islam does not care about our feelings, because their ultimate plan is Sharia law across the world. I do not want that. A lot of common sense people do not want that. And I know there's a clip currently circling around the internet right now from 2016 of a patriot telling, ironically, a person named Abdul to go back to where he came from. Because that's the thing, we don't want these people here. The British people did not consent to mass uncontrolled immigration, to which we have seen an absolute uproar of it over the last 2 decades. They said they would control immigration, and they have failed every fucking year for the last 20 to 30 years. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see one more person come into this country. Because quite frankly, we're already bursting at the seams. And with the number of terrorists here, we are like a powder keg about to go off. Unfortunately for the establishment, the people have had enough. And eventually, they will be in the radius of that powder keg. And when it goes up, they will have to face the music. And it won't be Sharia compliant music, because we're not going to allow that shit. We're going to make sure that this country puts itself and its citizens first. And we need to take the trash out of the houses of treachery. I mean Parliament. Or maybe I was right first time. Because I don't want to see my country, our country, become a Sharia state. I don't want to see Londonistan. I don't want to see Edinburghistan or Aberdeenistan. I don't think any of us do. So to the Labour MP directly, reconsider what you're trying to do. Because if you invite thousands of Palestinians over to this country from Gaza, you may create the very first steps that will turn our country into the very shithole I don't want this country to be.